Insight, the stripped back podcast. All about the what, the how, and the why tradespeople do what they do. Get first-hand knowledge and life stories from apprentices to the seasoned professionals. Hear the good, the bad, and the ugly aspects of a tradesperson's life through unfiltered chat, now on Insight, the stripped back podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Insight, the stripped back podcast. And I'm your host, Stephen Buckley. In this podcast, we're going to have unfiltered chat about the hot topics currently within the industry, and we invite guest tradespeople from all over the world to talk about the work they do and why it's so important. We'll also be discussing the challenges that tradespeople face and what we can do to support each other. So whether you're a tradesperson yourself or you just want to learn more about the importance of tradespeople within our society, then this is the podcast for you. So let's get started with some unfiltered chat on the next instalment of The Overload.
The Overload, featuring Keith Delahan.
Right, welcome to another instalment of The Overload. I'm Stephen Buckley.
I'm Keith Delahan.
And I guess I'm lucky to have you here today because you could have been down the other end of the country in Cork on a job, but to my benefit, you're here.
No, I'm delighted. It would have been 3 hours down, 3 hours back, and probably 2 hours in between. And no, there's not a hope you were getting put up for the night in a hotel or anything like that. So, I'm happy to be here, Steve-o.
Yeah, I think it's to the benefit of me and the listeners. I guess we should start off with what we finished up on last week in regards to apprentices. And, you know, I think I had an opinion with yourself just before we came on about what this generation is like at the minute. And, you know, a lot of them, they just see the end game and maybe to the detriment of their development and maybe the knowledge and skills that they could get throughout the apprenticeship, when all they're thinking about maybe is the money that they can make. And what do you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely think so, especially in the electrical trade. I was only talking to one of our kind of lead foremans in one of the companies we do work for during the week, and he did highlight to me that every young lad nowadays wants to be an electrician. I don't know what it is. It's like, it seems to be the more glamorous trade that you can get into. As you know, like everything's going solar and electric cars and stuff like that. But sometimes I think the young lads are picking the trade just for the wrong reasons. I think they're under the illusion that maybe, you know, it's a quick way to the top and a quick way to earn good money, like, you know. But like you touched on there, they're kind of seeing past how they have to develop and, you know, the core skills that they need to get out of themselves to progress in the trade, like. But yeah, no, it seems to be a problem there. Like that builder, that building foreman was mentioning to me that he can't find chippies. You know, he can't find plasterers. It's like, it's hard. It's actually hard on the other trades as well, you know.
Yeah, I think, you know, even when I started out as an apprentice, and obviously yourself, I don't remember asking about the pay when I started, you know. I just remembered being happy to get the job. And obviously, you know, you have to think about which industry and sector you're getting the apprenticeship in. So if you're looking in the industrial end of things, I guess if you do your bit of research and say, right, I'm going to be learning industrial here, so there's going to be a lot of containment, a lot of conduit, all that type of stuff, where if you're going to look into the domestic end of things, you know, you're going to be right in at the deep end with your rewires and crawling around attics. So I think, you know, I don't know if your experience of lads coming to you actually ask the right questions when they're coming for interviews, you know?
Yeah, like what I'm finding lately is we're getting a lot of CVs in. So you have your guys that are straight out of school, and obviously they want to get into the trade for reasons that I was telling you before. But like you said, some of these guys are just happy enough to go with anybody. They're not doing any research. So I feel sorry for some of them, because some of them have come on board, or I've seen guys in the past, even lads are in, you know, say they're in their phase 6 and they're coming to you and they're saying, well, I've got this many years done. Like, and then they tell me the companies that they're with, like not to name any companies, but like, you know, your industrial guys where the lads are going to be running pipe or, you know, putting big SWAs in, not really terminating anything for 2 to 3 years. So like what you said there, definitely do the research, ring around, and don't be afraid to ask guys. Like anyone that's ringing me might not know what we do, or they might know what we do from, say, like Instagram or something, but you really need to know what that company are doing. Fair enough, if you think you're going to be a dab hand with metalwork and you want to do that, that's by all means go and do that. But I know from experience, obviously starting out in domestic, then going industrial, I knew industrial kind of wasn't going to be for me, but obviously we do what we have to in it. But yeah, you definitely need to know what you're going to do. I think most people, you'd probably agree, when they think of an electrician, they're going to think of, you know, lights in someone's house, or, you know, they might think of a commercial unit. They might not be thinking of like car parks or, you know, train stations. They're thinking of places that they've been. So when they're going into it as young lads, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, and I think you don't want to have any regrets at the end of your apprenticeship, you know, where you've done your 4 to 5 years, depending on when you're getting into your phases, and think to yourself, you know, I can't wire a house now, like all I'm doing is containment, you know, and you could have made that bit of research before you got into the game to know what you were actually getting into, you know. So what other points do you think is a good one to touch on?
Yeah, well, like it kind of ties into research in the company as well. Like, so if you're you know, you're going for a job and you like the look of solar or something like that, you're gonna target the guys that are doing solar, and basically you're gonna build your CV around that. Like, you know, make sure when you're talking to, you know, potential employers that you mention these things, and mention that you're interested in that, or you've seen their work on Facebook, Instagram, and saying, like, that's really what I want to get into, you know. I think that's important.
Yeah, I guess like the main moral of the story is just for the lads that are in it now to be thinking of the long game rather than the end game, you know. Like, they need to be thinking of what they're learning right now rather than where they're going to be in 4 to 5 years' time, you know.
Yeah, not what beach they're going to be on next summer, or what festival they're going to next summer. Be in the moment, and kind of think about having your feet on the ground and getting the hard yards in.
Soak it all up, you know.
Yeah.
I think, you know, another one is I'm getting a bit of insight into the interview end of things, and I'm just wondering what's like the main points you'd be looking for, like if somebody coming in and interviewing with yourself.
Yeah, well, I think we touched on it there last week. Lad comes in the door, you kind of, like, the first thing you see is obviously their appearance, so you kind of, as a minimum, you want to see them showing up as if that's what they're going to be doing or going to be looking like during their working day. So, you know, the usual work trousers, work boots, you know, just, and general cleanliness as well.
Yeah, I guess it's tough, like, you know, like what type of questions do you think you need to ask a guy coming in the door that gives you a better perception of what they can offer you, you know?
I like to just feel them out, like, you know, like, where do you see yourself? The usual questions: where do you see yourself in the next couple of years? Or, you know, you'd ask them about their family. You kind of get a grasp of who they are when you ask them type of questions. Or, you know, what's your hobbies? What's your interests? You know, it'll all be on the CV, but like, anyone can write anything on a CV. You don't know anybody until you get them in the flesh. Obviously, your CV would have to be good to get you to kind of that stage, like. But like the likes of a first year, or, you know, you can't really gauge them until they get mucking in for a couple of weeks, you know. That'll be the real test, like, you know.
Well, the likes of the industry I work in, and obviously with a larger company, you know, you get the opportunity to, if you pass an interview stage and you get the job, you'll shadow a guy for a certain amount of time just to get on your feet, you know, and you can get a good interpretation of what the guys that you're working with are like from doing that. But I was just thinking from your end of it, like as a business owner, you know, and you've actually hired somebody and you get them onto your payroll and you've got them onto your jobs. What advice could you give to somebody else, like, in order to be able to gauge how good
things to look out for, like?
Yeah.
Well, there's a guy that lives close to me. I don't want to name him because he might not want to be named, but I actually get a lot of advice. Obviously, I'm only in business 3 years, so this lad was very good to me, like in terms of getting advice and getting feelers out for lads. But he gave me a couple of good pointers. Like, so usually, like you said, when a guy starts with him, he will shadow them for the day, and I know it's a bit cunning, but the second day, what he'd do is obviously he'd know from the first day if your man has, you know, electrical background and knowledge, but then the things you're looking for is timekeeping and, you know, punctuality, like, and obviously being able to talk to customers and all that kind of stuff. But what he does on the second day, which is, it's quite funny, he comes in with the guy that they'll work away, and what he does at lunchtime, then he says, "Look, Johnny," or whatever his name is, "I need to head off. I need to get a bit of gear. I need to do a little job. I'll chat to you tomorrow. Meet you back here at the same time in the morning." So what he does then, he goes off for a couple of hours, and he'll come back maybe a half an hour before pack up time, and obviously that's part of his test. And if the guy is still there and he's still working away, all is good. So so he had some experiences where lads, just because they were given the little bit of freedom, they just head on home, you know, half an hour earlier, knowing that he wasn't going to be back. Then he leads it into the next day. So obviously if Johnny passed that test, the next test then is, "Johnny, I'm coming to the job in the morning. I might not be there till 10 o'clock. I'll see you then." And then what he does then is he shows up maybe 10 minutes before start time, and then if Johnny's there, all's good in that department then, which I think is it's a good way of doing it. You're kind of tricking them, but at the same time you're getting a feel for who they are, like, you know.
Yeah, you're setting the precedent, you know, like of what type of character you want working for you, and you know yourself, anything can happen during the day, like where you might need a guy at any stage, like to be able to leave one job and onto another job, and you wouldn't want to think that if, you know, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you get a call and you need somebody to move on, that the job that they're on is not finished, you know. So
yeah,
I think it's a smart little way to be able to gauge who you have working for you, you know.
He also had a good one as well, where obviously some of these fully qualified lads that you're taking on now, they'd be quite demanding, you know. They want all the bells and whistles with the job, you know. But he had a good one. He told me that one of the guys was on something about the use of the van. So like he wanted to use the van in the evenings, basically for personal use. And he said, "All right, sure. Look, he's a good lad. He seems to be doing okay." But then he found out through the grapevine that it personal use was driving the van down to the pub for a couple of pints in the evenings and getting a few jars and going home. So, you know, there's loads of things you just have to keep an eye on in that regard. Like,
yeah, and it's the darker side of the self-employment, and actually having to think about what the extracurricular things is that your employees are doing out of hours. And people think that it's just the 9 to 5 and getting the jobs finished, but it's
that balancing act, like, where you say, am I better off knowing who the person is, or am I better off not knowing who they are?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you know the person, they think they have, you know, like special treatment, and then when you don't know who the person is, you don't know who the hell they are. Like, no matter if you
give them an inch and they take them out.
Exactly. So it's a balancing act most of the time.
Right, I've had a few people on Instagram just throw me a few suggestions that they wanted to ask you, obviously as a self-employed electrician now, what a few of your favourite things. So if you don't mind, I'll ask you and we can hopefully answer.
100%, Steve.
Right, well, I'll start with the first one. One of them was, what's your favourite fuse board to install?
My favourite fuse boards, now I've tried them all, as we all have. But my favourite one would have to be the Hager fuse boards. Partly because I like the layout of the board, and the other part is the trunking that they've recently brought out, the Hager brand trunking, which makes it look a lot better than all the other competition. Like,
yeah, I've seen a few of them installed. So that's the bit of trunking that comes down from the top where you can lead all your cables into it. Like, so
plenty of space, and it lines up perfectly with the edges of the board, so it just looks like one continuous piece of
nice
PVC
clean fit, like.
trunking. Yeah, it's nice. So that's my number one on that end anyway.
Second one is, what's your favourite hand tool or equipment that you've got for yourself?
So, hand tool screwdrivers, I would be using the backhouse. I like the backhouse screwdrivers. The hand tools then, as in me snips, side cutters, pliers, I'd be using the Nipex range. And then with power tools, the most recent one I bought is the Milwaukee Whole Hog, which saves a lot of time, and just having holes drilled straight in joists is A1. I love that. Then we got the Metabo wall chaser, so saving on mess, saving on time, and the job looks neat after it. And then the other little kind of cheap thing that we've bought that helps out massively is the R1 R2 links for testing, doing your RP REs. It's just top of the range.
I think I was sitting in the van outside CEF and you showed me yours, and I got a bit jealous, so I went in and got one for myself.
They actually have the plug adapter, the Nullen plug adapter as well. I
picked that up as well.
You got that as well.
I got jealous and I picked that up for myself as well. So I think it's definitely saves me a lot of time with the R1 R2 with the testing, and I think I just got the plug adapter because I had it. Because you had it, yeah.
Have you used it yet?
I use it. It's on the bag.
I use it every time we do a test of a house or anything like.
Yeah,
it's handy. Just there.
It's great for storage, even for the fact of nulling your tester, but the fact that you can just throw it on the outside of your bag.
Outside of your bag, it can actually hold your portable socket tester. Your one with your little beams, just for telling you if the socket's good or not. Yeah, no, that's a good choice. So yeah, that's the tools. Yeah, you can go on for days with the tools.
Well, I guess the testing end of it there leads into the next one. So it's what's your go-to test equipment?
So we've had the Q-Tex, which I did like. 2 of them got robbed, so I just thought it was a bad omen. Every time we bought one, they got robbed. Like, got 2 robbed within 2 months. I don't know.
Out of the van?
Yeah, out of the van. So I don't know what was going on there, who was watching me, but
And have you had anything fitted to the van since to stop?
Yeah, we've got slam locks on one of the vans, and then we've got two brand new vans which need to be done with that as well, you know. Yeah, no alarms or dash cams yet, so, and people are telling me to get them, so if anyone has any ideas, hit me or Steve up on the Instagram or
suggestions. I see a lot of stories on Instagram of people being hit with their vans being raided, like, you know, and it's for yourself. I don't think it's something that, you know, people really can understand the impact that it will have on somebody that's self-employed, you know.
Oh yeah, it's all revolves around money, Steve. On it, you know, a van is, especially the testers, like, because they're an expensive part of the part of your kit. So, and the usual thing, like, when that happened to me, I was bringing it in every night, and you know, when you're busy, then it slips by the wayside, so it gets left in the van. You know. Yeah,
it's very disheartening. We'll move on to the next one. We've got trousers or PPE that you've got for yourself.
I just like the Snickers range, Steve. So anything Snickers is good by me. Yeah, and most of the lads that work with me are the same. Now, boots wise, I'm wearing the DeWalt boots, but a lot of the lads, this is where I'm talking about the apprentices and their fancy notions, where they're getting the best boots, so they're all with the blue steels. Typical, isn't it? The owner has the cheaper pair, but sure, look, I do like to see that as well, you know, where lads are, that this is all with the pride and appearance type of thing as well, and, you know, interest in the job. So look, it can go both ways, you know, you can argue both ways.
I guess there's different people out there. I think I'd be happy enough just picking mine up out of Aldi, you know. But I think the last one we'll hit there is EVs. So what's your go-to car charger if you had the choice to pick it for a customer?
I would pick the My Energy Zappy every time. Partly because we're kind of big into the solar, so I think it's the most adaptable charger for if you're installing solar PV as well, because it integrates seamlessly with the solar PV system, so it'll automatically pick up on excess power, and it will charge your car directly from that. I think that's the easiest, and I like the user face on it as well. I know it's big and clunky, but it's nice to be able to see everything on the screen. Do you know what I mean? So if you've lost Wi-Fi, you can still operate the charger and see what's going on. Do you know?
And what would your no gimmicks one be if you were to go for a no gimmick?
I would probably go for something like the Garo or the EO. Do you know?
Yeah.
I call them dummy chargers,
Yeah.
where you plug them in and they work away. But I know they've advanced their stuff in the last couple of years. But again, like the EV industry is just it's basically a fancy outdoor socket, and like they've built this big kind of industry around a fancy outdoor socket. That's the way I see it anyway. But the Zappi there, I think are the best. Like, and then the ones that I wouldn't go for, believe it or not, would be probably the Tesla charger. Like, you think that would be leaps and bounds above the rest of them, but it's actually, in my opinion, it's probably the worst.
Yeah, I seen a nice one there on an Instagram story recently.
Probably one I done.
Yeah, well, I watch enough of yours, but there's another fella I follow, is Desi, and he installed a few of them now, the BG ones.
Oh yeah.
You can actually change the colour on the front of them, like, so if you wanted a red, black, blue, you can change the fascia on the front of it, like, which I think is very good, like,
Oh yeah.
give the customer a choice. But yeah, so I guess we'll finish up on that then. We've got Jamie Bermingham on the show today. He's going to be talking all things plumbing, which is a lot different from what we'd have any knowledge in.
The enemy,
yeah, but I'm very interested to see what he has to say. And
I know, same. We work closely with plumbers. As you know, we're doing a lot of heat pumps and heating upgrades and stuff like that. They're not all bad, what I mean.
No, I think Jamie has a lot of pressure on him now to turn people's heads around in the electrical industry, to try and see if we can
warm to him.
Yeah.
See if the pun.
So look, I'll leave it there. I'll let you get on with your work and catch up on your Tradeify stuff here that's in front of us, and I'll catch you next week, Keith.
Cheers, Steve, and thanks again for having me on.
Take it easy.
See ya.
My guest today is a multi-award winning plumber from Dublin, Ireland, with awards such as Apprentice of the Year 2023 and the World Skills Ireland Plumbing and Heating Award winner in 2022. He's taken time out of his busy schedule abroad to come on the show today, and I'd like to welcome to the podcast Jamie Bermingham. Jamie, thanks for joining me on the podcast today. I appreciate it.
How's things, Stephen? All good. It's thanks for having me on. It's a bit of a pleasure to be here, and more than happy to come on board here and answer all your questions.
Listen, as an electrician, I work with life-threatening energy every day, and yet I'm still more afraid of a water leak. So what drove you to want to start a plumbing apprenticeship?
It's funny. That question kind of comes up all the time. People ask me how I got into the plumbing industry. It was never actually something I really had in mind, nor was it something that I ever expected myself doing. I grew up kind of around cars, family garage. Always wanted to be a mechanic. Throughout school, that was all I had in my mindset. Wasn't really a school person, so the very odd days that I did go in, I knew that as soon as the days were over, I was going to be in a garage somewhere underneath a car doing a service or changing tires. But unfortunately, I was meant to start a plumbing or my mechanic apprenticeship with my uncle, and got let down, unfortunately. So I rang another uncle, and he just more or less took me on 3-month trial in the plumbing industry, and here I am now. I think I'm off 5 or 6 years into it now, so happy out.
So obviously I come from an electrical background, and I'm not too clued in on the plumbing apprenticeship system. So I was wondering, could you explain how the phase system works out in a plumbing apprenticeship, and what was your favourite part of your training overall?
Yeah, I suppose the phases work very similar to all the other trades really. You have your 1 to 7, so your 1, 3, 5, and 7 are all on the job phases, and then your phase 2, 4, and 6 are obviously your off the job phases. Phase 2 is done in a ETB, so an education and training board, and then you have your phase 4 and phase 6, and that's done in an IT college. So you're actually more in a proper college, let's say, for the phase 4 and phase 6. Um, my favorite part of the training, I'd say, was probably in the phase 2, 6 months. I really enjoyed that, the traveling side of it, being in a different county for your training, and I suppose it's your first stepping stone into the trade, I guess. So it's really where you start to learn and you start to pick up all the little tips, tricks, and the knowledge behind it. So that'd be probably my favorite part of the trade would be the phase 2.
So I noticed from your LinkedIn account that you moved between the domestic and industrial sector during your apprenticeship. Is this something that you had to do, or was it something that you decided to do yourself in order to broaden your skill set?
I think that's actually a really good question. No, not really. So, like, when I first started out with my uncle, it was a small domestic company. So, like I said, I didn't really have any background or any info kind of on the plumbing industry. I didn't really know what it was. Like, if you'd asked me a question back then, anything got to do with plumbing, I wouldn't have known where to look. But I suppose, look, I just fell in the door. I started out in the domestic industry. I would have done a lot of kind of day-to-day call-outs, bathroom renovations, a lot of first and second fix and new builds. I worked with my uncle there for about 2.5 years. I went working for a pal of mine then, same kind of industry, the domestic industry, but it was more site-based, instead of like private customers. I don't know. I just kind of was looking for a change one day. I just felt like I wasn't really going anywhere. So I said I'd start looking around, throw the CV out, and I've been applying for a couple of jobs. And I got a phone call one day, and it was from a guy from Jones Engineering, Simon Watson. And I was looking for a specific type of work in a certain division, and it was on the maintenance division because I knew that sites weren't really for me. So I'd applied for the job with Jones Engineering, and I remember I was actually heading down to the mobile for a weekend away, and I remember getting the phone call one Friday evening, 5 o'clock, from Simon, asking me if I wanted to start in the Mater Hospital as a maintenance technician on the Monday morning. So first of all, I just took the job straight away and found myself on Monday morning in the Mater Hospital, starting with a huge big company. So that was kind of the start of that then.
So during your apprenticeship, either while you were training or working, do you remember getting any guidance or support from anyone that helped you excel in your role as a plumber?
Throughout my training, did I get much guidance or support? I suppose apart from Simon and Jones Engineering, I would have got a lot of support and guidance from kind of everyone else in Jones Engineering, not just Simon, but obviously my colleagues and line managers and that. But a lot of the support as well would have came from instructors I found in phase 2, 4, and 6. I was always very kind of focused on the trade. Once I started, it was something that I really started to enjoy. I really had a passion for it. I loved obviously good quality work. I loved good tools. So, I really just got stuck in more so than nothing else. And everyone then that was kind of around me at that time was telling me, look, you're doing well, so keep it up. And they were very supportive. And if you're ever stuck on that, and they'd always be there, they'd always help you, especially lads I was working with my uncle's company at the time. I was going out, starting a few small jobs for myself, as you do, to earn your extra few bob on the side. And no matter what, then they'd always pick up the phone. There was never such thing as a stupid question, regardless of whether you knew what you were doing or not. So I suppose in that sense, having people there throughout your apprenticeship that you can pick up the phone and ask a question, and you're not going to be judged. I suppose that means a lot as well. And that's amazing support and guidance throughout, because that's what you need throughout your apprenticeship. You need people who are qualified, that are willing to give you the hand.
What advice could you give to somebody who's just left school and they're potentially looking at starting an apprenticeship as a plumber, and they're just not too sure of what lies ahead of them?
I suppose the number one bit of advice I'd say is if you are interested, and you are willing to do the work and it's something that you're really passionate about, is make sure that you find the right company that suits what you're looking for from the get go. So, once you get in and you start knuckling down and you're enjoying the work, I'd say just keep that head down. That's what I found, and no matter what you do, just always produce good quality work. I kind of got into that myself from probably an early stage of my apprenticeship, where I just wanted to do well, just wanted good work, and I think that's important, and that's how you get your name out there, is obviously through the quality of your work. A lot of people can get a certain amount of work done, but it's the quality of the work at the end of the day that counts.
So, for those that have already committed and started an apprenticeship as a plumber, would you be able to break down what's involved between each phases of the apprenticeship program and hopefully give them a bit of insight of what's ahead?
Yeah, so in the plumbing industry, like your phase two, like I was saying earlier, is done in an education and training board. So that's for 6 months, and you get a vast majority insight as well, actually, into the trade. You get a great insight, actually. You cover all aspects between copper work, GB, so which is gun barrel pipe. It's like a steel pipe which you learn how to thread, cut, weld. It's great. You do a bit of copper work, you do a bathroom fit out, a heating system. You obviously look at all your theory side of it as well. So phase two would be more aimed at the domestic end, but you would cover a small bit of industrial and commercial stuff as well. But um, it's mainly all domestic.
You must be proud of the accolades that follow your name, and especially the ones that you obtained during your apprenticeship. I was just wondering, how did you find yourself getting into the World Skills Ireland competition in 2022, and how did you feel when you found out that you won it?
Yeah, so this question kind of actually relates back to what I was just saying there about the quality of your work and putting the head down. So how I found myself getting into the world skills is that I'd actually started with Jones Engineering probably just under a year prior to obviously getting the trial for the world skills. So my dad had said to me at the time, you should get your LinkedIn account set up, and I hadn't a clue what LinkedIn was, and he was telling me about it. So I went on one day. I said, "Look, I'll set the account up and I'll see what it's about." So set up my LinkedIn profile, started putting up bits of my work every day, whether it was a bit of copper work or it was bracketry or whatever. I just started posting on LinkedIn. After a while, then I kind of noticed that obviously my audience was starting to build up on LinkedIn. So a lot of people were starting to follow me. A lot more people were starting to see and like my posts. A lot of people were liking the work that I was putting up and leaving nice comments, which obviously helps and boosts the confidence and just wants you to produce more quality work. Um, got a call one day then, just out of the blue again from Simon. He tends to do that with good news all the time. I got a little boost of confidence, let's say, asking me did I want a trial for the Ireland Skills competition, and of course I couldn't turn it down. So I remember then, I think it was just, Jesus, we're probably going over nearly 2 years now since I'd done it. I had to go out to Coolkey Training Centre. It's a place that Jones Engineering have for training their apprentices, and I had to meet two, I think they were world skills examiners. One of the chief examiners, Fergus McGuinness, and his colleague then Eamon. They came out and they basically just gave me a drawing. It was half a board of GB pipe work to be done, and then the other side was copper pipe work. So it consisted of a couple of bends, offsets, 45s. You had a certain amount of hours to do it, select amount of materials, and at the end, then it was down to kind of measurements, accuracy, and then obviously the overall look. So I done the trial out in Kilkee for the day, got that done, was absolutely sweating. I remember going home and I probably could have wrung out the t-shirt with nerves, absolutely sweating. Think about a month went by maybe. I got a phone call then asking, saying basically that I was after getting through the preliminary stage, and I was asked to compete in the World Skills Ireland event over 3 days in the RDS against 5 other plumbers. So that was on in obviously the RDS. Went in on the first day. We were shown around. We kind of got like a cubicle based little bay, all your materials, and basically we were told we had 3 days over, I think it was 21 hours to do this project. So it consisted of basically a full heating system, domestic heating system, boiler, cylinder, all the pipe work, radiators, and then the plumbing side of it as well. So we had a bathroom on the other side, shower, toilet, sink, and your towel rad. So end of the 3 days, we got that done. Very tight, to be fair. And one of my pals was actually in it at the time, was competing against one of my friends, Ben Gerard, and it was a tough one. He thought I was going to win. I thought he was going to win. The other lads' work was just all phenomenal. When you think about it, you have the 5, 6 best tradespeople, apprentice tradespeople in the world, or sorry, in Ireland, should I say, competing against one another in the RDS. So you're bound to have top talent there, let's say. So we finished up on the Friday. We went home, bite to eat. We had to go back in then for an award ceremony, and obviously then they announced the winner's medal for the plumbing and heating. And I tell you, I was just shocked. I was actually so overwhelmed. Didn't know where to look. Didn't know whose hand to shake. It was just one of these things where it felt like the couple of years of hard work and the dedication and the quality of the work had all just paid off all of a sudden, you know.
And then following on from that win, you also won the Apprentice of the Year at the Generation Apprentice Awards and the Rising Star Award at the Plumbing and Heating Awards in 2023. Was it hard to stay grounded after this, or did it spur you on to want to achieve as much as you could in your career?
Yeah, the next 2 awards, Jones had nominated me for both of those. It's crazy. After the Apprentice of the Year awards, so actually only a week in between each award. Jesus, at the Plumbing and Heating Awards, it's just overwhelmed. I suppose, like, winning 3 awards in the space of 2 years it's a lot, especially in the industry that we're in. You know, it's a very big industry. There's a lot of talent there. So, you know, I think you do kind of have to stay grounded in a way. I think it kind of pushed me more so to go on in my career and made me realize that, you know, if you do put the effort in, like I was saying earlier on, you are going to go places. So it's important to keep the head down, put the work in, and, you know, anything you want, you can achieve, basically.
So, what opportunities have opened up for you since winning these awards, and where are you working now?
Yeah, so I'm actually currently, we're on this podcast. I'm live from here in Denmark. So I actually just moved over here the first week of the new year. Still working for Jones Engineering. They asked me to come over to be a charge hand on a large pharmaceutical project we have going on here for the next 2, 3 years. So I obviously took that bit of a promotion, which, you know, I'm sure it spiked from obviously the hard work, the quality of the work, and obviously the awards too. So I suppose there has been a couple of opportunities and doors opened up for me since winning the couple of awards. But it's not just from winning, you know, a plaque or a certificate. You know, it is down to everything that came behind that, you know.
I believe that you had the honour of being invited to speak to the Oireachtas Committee, and I was wondering, what did it feel like to be able to stand up within the Houses of Parliament and be able to share a message to government officials, and what was the message that you had to share?
Yeah, it was an absolute honour to be able to speak in the House of the Oireachtas, you know, speaking in front of TDs and senators about the importance of apprenticeships and STEM. Um, the message I had to share really was that, you know, how important apprenticeships are, and, you know, the college route isn't the end all and be all. You know, I was always kind of told, brought up, you know, go to college and, you know, you get a good job after that, and that's kind of it. But for me, it was much more than that. I always wanted to do an apprenticeship. I always wanted to do something physical with my hands. Um, so I suppose, like, you know, getting to speak in the House of the Oireachtas to promote apprenticeships was such a big deal for me, because it meant that my message and my kind of personal experience was going to benefit others for wanting to do apprenticeships, and it's also speaking out about apprenticeships and trying to get that word out that they're more important in my eyes anyway. And it's a much better option, I think, these days for the current job market to go down the apprenticeship route, because it's not just the likes of construction industry that the apprenticeships are in. You can do it from real estate to finance, to plumbing, whether it's fixing cars. There's an apprenticeship nearly nowadays for everything, which is fantastic. So it is the route, because it's earn as you learn and you have a skill set for life.
Adding another string to your bow, I believe that you are now a part of the Plumbing World Council. Could you explain to me and to everybody what it means to be a part of such a renowned body like this?
I suppose being a part of the World Plumbing Council is quite a big deal. They're a huge, big organization from the United States. I first met them over at one of the largest HVAC trade fairs in Frankfurt in March 23. The World Plumbing Council are basically just a big organization of basically plumbing unions and industries from all over the world. So they organized an event in Frankfurt in a local sports club, and they were renovating the toilet facilities for them. So they got over 12 plumbers from 9 different countries across the world, and we all came together for 1 week, collaborated to build these Geberit pre-wall frame systems for bathrooms. They consisted of toilets and sinks, and we built these in front of a very large audience, I'd say, in the trade fair. They were then shipped to the local sports centre, where we all brought all our tools, equipment, and obviously these pre-assembled frames that we'd built, and we installed them then for free as part of obviously the charity organisation that the World Plumbing Council had organised. So something that's so broad and so vast, and not only do they bring, I suppose, all of us plumbers from all around the world together, but they also they kind of just give back to certain places.
If people were looking to contact you for advice or to gain some knowledge or even just follow your content, what platforms can they find you on?
I do have kind of a work and personal plumbing page that I have set up on Instagram. It's JB_plumbing. That's probably the best place to find me. Or if you want to go on and have a look, I do post some stuff, but just been extremely busy, obviously, the last couple of months with the move to Denmark and organisation and work. So I haven't really been posting a lot. But for apprentices, I have a couple of different of a couple of story highlights there, just at the different phases, so people can go on and see what's done in each phase. And if anyone ever needs anything, look, more than happy to help if you shoot me a text.
So I've got some listeners' choice questions that were provided to us through my Instagram page, Insight Electrical, and I was wondering if you would be happy enough to answer a few of them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd be excited to hear what people have to ask.
Great. So the first question from Instagram is, do you have to be a qualified plumber to be able to complete an F-gas course?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. As far as I know, yes, you do. It's the same as completing your RGI course. You need to have a level 6 QQI, as far as I'm aware, to complete any external courses, especially with the likes of RGI or F-gas or anything like that. So I don't think it's something you can do as an apprentice.
This one is also about courses, and it's, is there any courses that non-plumbers can do to familiarise themselves with heat pump systems?
That's another good question. As far as I know as well, no. I think you do, in order to work with the heat pumps, obviously some of them have F-gas and that as well. You do need to have a qualification to go on to partake in any of the external courses. But like I say, there's nothing stopping someone if they want to learn about heat pump systems. There's plenty of stuff online, to be able to go on and look at. I've also done that, to be fair. There is a lot about heat pumps out there, and I know METAC do some courses and HEVAC and stuff like that. So they run their own courses as well. So if anyone is looking to familiarize themselves with the heat pump systems, I'd just say just go online and research.
And the final Instagram question is there any tips that you could give to be able to shut your mind off at the end of a busy day?
Oh, that's a tough one. I find even myself, even still, I suppose like it is tough to shut off at the end of the day. You're always thinking, especially in the plumbing industry, is that tight? Is the gas line tested? Did I do this? Did I do that? You know, my role now is obviously kind of charge hand site supervisor, so I'm looking after a team of 8 to 10 lads. But I just feel like especially for me, I'm always thinking about work. I'm always thinking about, what's the next day, what's lined up, what's going to happen. I'd be a bit of an overthinker in that sense. So I suppose you just kind of have to learn to just, as soon as you finish work, you just need to realize that, look, what's done is done. So when you go home, there's nothing you can do regardless of what's happened. So, I suppose it is hard. It's easy to say, yeah, just forget about work as soon as you walk out the gate. It isn't that simple. Every night, I'm always thinking, what's the next day? What work have I got on for the lads? I've got a bit more responsibility now, obviously. So it is tough, but I eat, breathe, and sleep plumbing. I absolutely love it. I love my job. I love what I do, and I suppose that's why I am where I am today, I guess.
Right, so we've just come to the end now, and we'll finish on an easy one. I'm putting together a Season 1 playlist where each guest gets to choose one song to go on it. What is your song of choice?
My song of choice is going to be Don't You Like It by 49th and Main.
Thanks for that song choice, Jamie. I'll be adding that onto the playlist. And thanks for coming on to the show today and sharing your knowledge and giving me an insight into the world of plumbing. I wish you all the best for 2024. And now I'm going to play you out to your song choice. Take it easy, Jamie.
Cheers, Stephen. Appreciate you having me on, and have a good one.
Don't you like it when I don't know what to say? Don't you like it? You could have it anyway. Don't you like it?
Right, well unfortunately that's just about it for episode 3. I'd like to thank Jamie and Keith for joining me on the show today. If you like what you heard, come back next time for another instalment of The Overload with Keith Delahan, and I've got chartered engineer and the author of So You Want to Be an Electrician, Gary Alder, joining me on the show. So make sure you head over to wherever you get your podcast and hit the like and follow button to be notified when the next episode drops. Take it easy, everyone.